All right, so we'll wait a few seconds for people to get in here, and then we will begin. I'm going to share this on socials real quick, and we'll get a few people in here. We have 0 viewers right now.
Hey, everybody, it's post-Loons time.
6 viewers. We have 6 viewers. Oh, wow.
See, it worked. I started yelling and people showed up.
This is crazy, John. I can't believe it. We're actually, Jeremy gave us the reins to post Loons tonight.
Mm-hmm. And we've got our names in the corner of the screen here.
Oh my goodness.
This is very cool. Jeremy must feel very cool all the time.
And Dom typically comes on here with him. We don't get this special treatment. Well, hey, thank you to
and they're about to find out why.
We've got Mr. Geldy in the comment section. Thank you for joining. Welcome to Post Loons, everybody. I'm Jacob Schneider. I'm a content creator covering Minnesota United for SodaSoccer.com and others. And then I am joined by the wonderful colleague I like to call John Marthaler. John, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Jacob?
I'm really excited for Minnesota. I'm really excited for Minnesota United.
You've got that deep cold voice tonight. It sounds like you've been throwing back whiskey and cigs the whole game, and you're ready to go now.
I wish I could say that was the case, but instead, Snowmageddon got the best of me, and I have a pretty cool head cold right now. If you're a Friends fan from the 90s, when Phoebe gets her cold, she turns into a really good singer. I can't say the same right now. I wish I could. So I'm not going to sing to you. Instead, I'm just going to blurb about soccer all night.
Well, I mean, you can sing. Mr. Geldy here is going to go for it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Mr. Geldy. Maybe if we get enough people in here, we'll do a little rendition later, John. Anyways, thank you for joining Post Loons, everybody. Let's get into it. John, what a result for Minnesota United. Going into the contest, I don't think anybody expected Minnesota United to pull out the result in Dallas. They have not lost their home opener since 2009. That's a crazy stat to look at. And on top of that, the last time Minnesota went to Dallas, it didn't end in their favor. They lost in the playoffs. Their season ended. And they were down 3 starters from the get-go tonight. And then Kervin Arriaga and Joseph Rosales did not arrive in Dallas until last night. This is just an incredible result for them. Give me your initial thoughts on the win here.
Well, I thought it was funny they had the green card problems with, like you say, Rosales and Arriaga showing up late and Luis Amarilla not showing up at all. And you sort of look and say, well, why don't they get into town? Well, as it turned out, they needed all 3 of those guys to get their permanent residency because otherwise they wouldn't have had enough international roster spots. So it's just one of those down to the wire things. But I was particularly interested coming into the game to see how they were going to look, not only just in formation wise, but in their transition moments, in their counterattacking moments without Emmanuel Reynoso, because especially on the road, they've always just sort of turned it into a give the ball to Ray and hope something happens kind of thing. And that was true going back even before Ray was around. They did the same thing with Darren Quintero, and even going back to Ibsen in 2017, it was sort of the same plan. So they did it without it. And I thought it looked more balanced than usual. It almost had to be, because they're not just turning and looking for one thing, but you had, I think, Kervin Arriaga was awfully good. I've been worried that I've been mispronouncing Kervin. Should it be Kervin? That's what the broadcast was saying tonight. Technically, all right. I feel like I might have been mispronouncing it all this time, but I thought he looked good. He and Will Trapp were more involved in the attack, I think, because they both had to push forward, because Robin Lod was not just trying to be the 1-for-1 Emmanuel Reynoso replacement. He wasn't just turning to get the ball and trying to pick it up in midfield and drive it forward. So I thought that was sort of an interesting wrinkle.
And like the lineup graphic the team posted before kickoff had it in a 4-2-3-1. That was not a 4-2-3-1 being played. Robin Lod definitely played as a dual 8 with Kervin Arriaga. And he's so good at controlling the tempo of these matches. If you look at that first half, it was bland. Not much happened. There was a really good Dane St. Clair save off a corner kick, and that was the most exciting thing to happen. But when you look to the details of the game, you look to, watch specific players and watch the tempo control, the entire match was controlled by the midfield of each teams. You have to give it an absolute, like, you got to applaud Kervin Arriaga, Will Trapp, and Robin Lod for today's performance, because they 100% controlled the tempo of the match. It wasn't moving too fast. It wasn't moving too slow. It was played through the middle. When they needed to go wide, they played wide. Their biggest struggle was getting that ball into the final third, and we noted it by the 5 touches that Mender Garcia only had in that first half. But he only needed those 5, to make an impact. And then he needed 1 in the second half, just 1 touch to score that goal off the Fragapane rebound. It was, immense. Perfect result for Minnesota. An incredible way to start your season. On the road, you're down your starting right back. You're down your talisman, your most important player, quote unquote, Emmanuel Reynoso. It's an incredible result. I'm thrilled for them, thrilled for the club, thrilled for the staff. And if you're listening right now and you have anything to add, you feel free to leave a question. Whether if you're on Facebook or YouTube, unfortunately, Twitter does not allow you to leave questions by watching the stream on Twitter. So if you want to ask us a question in the chat, please join the Facebook stream or the YouTube stream. We'd love to hear from you. And if we have an answer for you, we have an answer for you. If not, then I'll blame John.
It's clearly my fault. I'm the kind of person who does that sort of thing. So,
and especially after a week like we've had, with Snowmageddon coming, and John broke his shovel. I'm really disappointed.
I did. We said before we started tonight that this was going to be all about shovels, and I guess that's a callback to when we did Shovel Talk. What was happening during that game? That was like a preseason podcast we did last year. What game was happening? Was it Colorado in the CONCACAF Champions League?
Yes, I think so. I
think they were playing in Colorado when it was snowing.
Yeah.
And we were watching, Jacob and I, of course, being the great podcast participants, instead of paying attention to what was going on in the podcast, we were just watching the Colorado game, and they were shoveling off the lines or something on the field. And so we just turned it into Shovel Talk. So welcome to Shovel Talk. This is not Post Loons anymore. This is it says down here on the bottom of the screen, Post Loons. That's not what we're going to do. This is Shovel Talk from now on.
And for those of you that don't know, this past week was a wild week for Minnesota United due to the weather. They had to go over their tactics for the game today on Wednesday due to weather conditions. They had to cancel training on Thursday. It was not safe for players to travel to the National Sports Center in Blaine from their homes and cities in the surrounding area. And then on Friday, they had to travel. They had to fly to Dallas. It's been a wild week. And like we mentioned, neither Arriaga or Rosales arrived till last night, and Luis Amarilla didn't even make the trip. He's still in Paraguay. So really, really good result, really important stuff. We do have a question here. We've got from Mr. Geldy, does Mender start next game 100%? That's the home opener, regardless if Luis Amarilla is present. Amarilla didn't train this week. He wasn't with the squad. He didn't get there for the result. He wasn't part of, what happened today. And what happened today was really special for Minnesota United, because they came about and they got a result and doubted and everybody who doubted them, it's like a slap in the face. Heath was talking about it post game. Oh gosh, John, what was the term that he used? The English term for
coupon buster. He said it was a coupon buster.
Yeah, tonight was a coupon buster because the Minnesota probably ruined everybody's parlays in the betting world tonight. And in England, I guess when a team ruins your parlay, they call it a coupon buster. So note that one, put it on your bingo cards. If you happen to have an Adrian Heathism bingo card to start 2023, whether that maybe substitution patterns are on it, maybe underdogs are on it, maybe 2 to 3 more players. We've got all our Heathisms. That's a new one. So add it to your bingo card.
If the club is on the ball by Monday, you'll be able to go to MLSshop.com and buy a shirt that has a Minnesota United logo right in the center, and it'll just say coupon buster.
I love it.
John. I don't know why you wouldn't.
I love it. Hey, if you've been here for these first 10 minutes and you are enjoying what you're seeing, be sure to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and retweet the stream if you're on Twitter. Share it on Facebook, copy the link on YouTube and share it. Give us some love. We've got 11 viewers in here right now. Let's get that up to 15 to 20. John and I aren't podcasting professionals by any means. Look at that. We're already up to 12. Look at me talking. I'm bringing
you just have to talk about it. That's the important thing.
No, but for those of you who don't know, this is my first time hosting Post Loons. John's first time being a guest on Post Loons in 2023 too. we are going to do our best here tonight to take over for the crew. And if you enjoy what you are seeing so far, be sure to leave that subscribe, thumbs up, and yeah. So, John, I think we're going to jump to our three things now. Number one for you, what was the most important takeaway from the game?
Well, I thought Mender Garcia was awfully good at center forward. You mentioned he only had 6 touches in the first half, but one of the things that I think, and again, I'll go back to how Reynoso-centric the offense tends to be. One of the things that I think center forwards have struggled when playing with Emmanuel Reynoso is there's some question of what is my role? What is my role in the offense? Where do I run? Am I trying to run off the defender's last shoulder and look for passes? Am I coming back to try to get the ball and spread it to wide forwards? This is something that Luis Amarilla in particular really struggled with, it seemed like, last season. Especially early in the year. It was a lot of almost not knowing where to stand quite. Do I come back to the ball? Do I make a run across the penalty? Am I trying to drag defenders out of the way? Just sort of a mismatch in terms of what Ray was doing with the ball and what the runs that Amarilla was making. In this game, this is partially a function of not having that central chance creator that everything orbits around. But one of the things that I feel like I really like what I saw from Mender Garcia is he's making those runs. He's not just turned around at the top of the penalty area waiting to get a ball into his feet and then try to do something from there. He's making those runs. He's trying to run in behind a little bit. He's in the right spots. I know that preseason Heath came out and said we don't see him as a winger. He played most of his games on the left wing last year, but he said we see him as a center forward. And in a game like this, you can see why they see him as a center forward rather than maybe in one of those wide roles like Longwane or Fragapane.
And if I'm being frank, I thought Franco Fragapane had a really tough first half, failed to make much of an impact despite having, some of the most touches of any player in the final third. He just failed to progress the ball forward. It was always passing back. It was always, losing a lot of giveaways, not really sustaining the pressure well when being, pressured by the Dallas defenders. But like you said, influential from Mender. That's my biggest point too, is you go back to 2022 and the issues that Luis Amarilla had were that he second guessed himself in the final third.
Yeah.
Whether it was, do I make this run or that run? And he took too much time figuring out which run to make. Do I take this touch, that touch? Do I shoot or do I turn and pass it? Those are the biggest issues with Luis Amarilla. He was struggling with his confidence. He was struggling with his time management on the pitch in awareness in the final third. And Mender just did what he needed to do tonight, whether it was those runs, whether it was, going for that initial through ball, like we saw in the 56th minute when Ibeagha took him down. Maybe he could have done better there. Maybe it was a good tackle by Ibeagha. We'll jump on that a little bit later. But Mender was really important tonight. And, point number 2 for me is I look into the Minnesota United defense. Mickey Tafias inserted just 2 weeks after arriving. His first, regular season game with Michael Boxall, Zarek Valentin in for DJ Taylor, which is not what I expected to see, noting that Taylor was available in training yesterday. And Valentin had a really tough first half. Second half, he was one of the best players on the pitch for Minnesota. I think he absolutely locked Alan Velasco down in that second half, which is not what I expected to see. But like I thought, Tapias was brilliant. The pairing with Boxy was really solid. You didn't hear Ferreira's name called once in that second half. He was quiet. Paul Arriola caused a little bit of trouble, but Kemar Lawrence did his job really well too. Applause to the Minnesota United defense.
Yeah, you're right, and you really did not hear Velasco, Ferreira, Arriola making a big difference in that game, and you have to give credit to that back four. It's like you said, this is the first time that Boxall and Tapias are playing together in MLS game. This is Zarek Valentino around, obviously has been around forever, and so has Kemar Lawrence, but this is the first time that they're all playing together as a back four. And like you say, even with DJ Taylor out, they might have expected a different back four just with the fact that Valentine is in for Taylor. And to shut Dallas down, Dallas had one shot on goal. It was a header from a corner. They had some half chances otherwise, but I think if I remember the stats right, in the expected goal standings, they got up to maybe one I think it was 1.02 or something like that.
Sure.
So it's not like there have been other games where the story of the game was, well, Minnesota United won 1-0, but Dane St. Clair made 15 saves and the opposing team rolled up 4 expected goals, and it was a scramble mode kind of thing. This was as solid of a defensive performance as they've had in a while.
And
even
go ahead, finish up.
You look back to the start of last season when Debasi was playing left back and they were sort of having to cobble together a back line because they were missing some guys. That was kind of scramble mode some of the time. And to have it just come out and be one of the better defensive performances recently, especially given Debasi's injury at the end of last year, that was impressive.
Yeah, a really impressive performance tonight. And if you agree, if you disagree, if you want to join in on the conversation, please feel free to share the stream you're watching right now, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. And a reminder, if you are watching on Twitter, you will not be able to comment. Unfortunately, StreamYard does not allow Twitter to comment in the comment section. There is one if you head to YouTube or Facebook and join us live. And again, please feel free to share, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Jumping to John's second point on our doc. John, another early yellow card for Will Trapp. His trademark. Talk to me.
It was almost sad because there was such a storyline at the start of last year. Well, he was injured midseason and then he came back and it wasn't so much of a problem. But it seemed like for about 5 consecutive games early in 2022, Will Trapp would make sort of a needless challenge in about the 20th minute and would get a yellow card. And suddenly he would be, given that he was sort of the only defensive midfielder in the lineup, suddenly something would happen in the second half where there would be a 50-50 ball. Trapp wouldn't be able to go in on it or make any kind of challenge because he's sitting on a yellow card and wasn't going to risk another one, and the ball would end up in the back of Minnesota United's net. So, of course, I think I wrote something about how, well, he sort of corrected that. And then what happens tonight? But was it the 21st minute? Will Trapp yellow card. And so you just sort of expected that at some point there was going to be a turnover in the center of midfield and that Trapp would be the only person standing there. And instead of being able to commit a foul or take a yellow or something to stop the attack, it would just end up being a 3-on-2 Dallas counterattack that ended up with the ball in the back of the net. That didn't happen, but it was a throwback to see it again.
When we're talking about Will Trapp, we're talking about that midfield. That's my point. That's my third point. Arguably the most important on the night for me is despite that sloppy yellow card, despite, the the trademark
Will Trapp yellow. That's the whiskey, everybody.
I wish it was whiskey, John.
That's what it does to that voice. It gives you that sort of, that Jack Buck 1980s kind of voice. That's what you're going for tonight.
I love it. I love the comparison, John. But excuse me.
Do you remember Jack Buck? Do you hit the subscribe button or whatever Jacob said?
Yeah, but that midfield, man, the midfield tonight, they controlled the tempo. Will Trapp had a really good game. I think heading into 2023, he's the most, skeptical player in the starting 11 for a lot of people because of the struggles and the inconsistencies he had last year. Kervin Arriaga tonight was brilliant. Robin Lode controlled the tempo. There's not much else to say. The midfield, they owned it. They controlled the tempo. They bossed everything. It was impressive to watch.
The Loons do need a big season out of Will Trapp. You mentioned whatever doubts there might be. He's the team captain, but also they do not have sort of a like-for-like D-mid replacement for Will Trapp. There's, obviously there's plenty of guys who can play that sort of number 6 role, but there's nobody who does exactly what Trapp does in the lineup. And if he plays well, that gives a lot of guys other freedom, whether it's Lode, whether it's Arriaga.
We have a comment from Mr. Geldy saying maybe put Bongi in that defensive role.
There's really no reason they shouldn't put Bongi in any role on the field. There's not one role. He started the game tonight, not to get too much into the fashion talk, but he started the game with the shorts really up high. Like, we're talking, he looked like Darlington Nagbe's sort of little brother, you know what I mean? Just the shorts almost up in the armpits. But
the jersey was tucked in. He didn't have his jersey tucked in at all last year. That's new. That's new, John.
That's new. Well, I think what we're saying is that he's found a way to unleash a new version of Bongi that we're going to call Super Bongi. That's with the shirt tucked in. It's sleeker, it's faster, it's a new look.
See, I was chatting with fellow Soda Soccer contributor, Mr. Eli Hoff, about Bongo Kule Klongwane the other day, and we came up with the term Bongidinho.
Bongidinho.
Bongidinho. I think I'm a fan of that one, John. So let me pitch.
Only more difficult for me to say than Bongo Klongwane.
The commentator tonight took a gamble on that one in the first half, and he butchered it right away. And he just went with Longwane the rest of the game.
Yep.
Good times.
You gotta try it at least once. It's like,
yeah,
you just gotta make the effort, and then if it doesn't go well, you just get up and go away from it.
Number
I think,
21. Jump into your final point. You were talking about how good Kervin Arriaga was, the same as me. But in bigger news, we saw another midfielder make his return tonight in Hassani Dotson, coming off of a torn ACL. If you want to learn a little bit more about Hassani's recovery, I wrote a feature on him this past week on Soda Soccer, talking about stepping into fatherhood. As well as recovering from a torn ACL at the same time. His daughter turned 3 months old just a week after he tore his ACL, and he was able to spend a lot of that the time with her, seeing her grow up, the lessons he learned, and some of his biggest takeaways. So be sure to check that out on Soda Soccer. But John, looking to seeing him return tonight. In the post-game press conference, Adrian Heath said that he believes Hassani Dotson, a fully healthy, fully integrated into the starting 11, mid-season form, Hassani Dotson is a U.S. men's national team player. And that's ambitious talk because he was in the U24 Olympic pool before he got injured. He's a very talented individual. What does it mean for Minnesota to have Hassani back?
Well, the funny thing about Hassani was when he came on, you're just excited to see him because it's a hard injury to come back from. It's a long rehab process. And then he gets out there. I think he was in one tackle and it was just like, is he okay? And I think it's going to be that for a while for fans where it's like, I need you to wave your hand, just get up and walk around a little bit. But as someone also, I want to say, as somebody who's once had a newborn and had a 1-year-old, I think it's just amazing that he's awake right now. That's the thing, recovering from a knee injury, that's one thing, but getting some sleep and being awake enough to play in a game. It's late for us parents. This is late night stuff. So congratulations, Hassani, on staying up this late.
Well, his daughter is now 1 year old. She was born in late January, and his family moved to Minnesota here with him last summer. So they're all here together now, and I'm really excited to see what 2023 has in store for him. We have a comment from Scott Hauer. Scott, thanks for joining the stream. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the stream as you're watching right now so we can get some more viewers in here, more questions. Reminder, if you're on Twitter, you cannot ask questions, unfortunately. Wish you could. Hop to YouTube or Facebook to send a question to John or I. But Scott, who is Tani Oluwaseyi? Tani had a really good start to his campaign with MNUFC 2 last year after being selected in the Super Draft. Unfortunately, his season was covered with injuries, small little ones here and there. And then he unfortunately didn't get to play much of the end of the season. And this past year, he's had a really good preseason with the first team. Adrian Heath has been talking nonstop about him in open media sessions during training. And John had the chance to ask a question on him in post-game tonight. John, you want to talk a little bit about what Adrian had to say?
Yeah, I mean, Adrian said that obviously he's somebody they really want to work with. The sense I got from his answer was more like, listen, we need to get this guy some game time. We need to get this guy, not necessarily MLS game time. I mean, I think that based on his answer, it was a little more like we need this guy to show what he can do at the MNUFC 2 level and then maybe come back. But they were in such a crunch tonight of their options off the bench for attacking players were Cam Dunbar, who's not really a forward. He's a forward, but sort of a jack of all trades kind of forward, and he's 20. And Patrick Weah, who's 19 and has 7 MLS minutes and just coming back from a knee injury, and Tani Oluwaseyi. So I think it was more the function of not saying, well, this is a guy that we really want to be playing a lot of MLS minutes this year, and more like, well, we got kind of a short bench tonight. We've got only 8 guys on the bench, and 2 of them are goalkeepers. So somebody's got to go in there, and we've already replaced 2 forward players with midfielders. I think Dotson came on for Garcia and I
Rosales
think
came on for
Rosales came
Braga.
on for Fragapane, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit like, well, it's either that or we put in DJ Taylor for as a forward. So we got to do something here. But I
So,
think I'm really interested. I remember when they first drafted him last year, MLS impresario David Goss, who is much more plugged into Big East soccer than I will ever be. Oluwaseyi came from St. John's, and he said, I think that this is a guy who will be able to contribute for Minnesota this season. Obviously, that didn't happen because of the injury, but he did get some minutes in MLS Next Pro last year. And I think they want to see that continue to develop. That's the sense I got from Heath's answer anyway, is that they want to continue to develop him rather than thinking of him as someone who can contribute right away.
and I'll selfishly plug something here. Last June, I had the chance to speak with Tani, among a few others, in a special piece I wrote for MLSNextPro.com on Juneteenth, and the meaning of Juneteenth, and expressing diversity in soccer and hearing from diverse voices on what Juneteenth means to them. Tani agreed to speak with me on the issue. We talked about race in soccer. We talked about his experiences growing up, in Canada, coming from Africa to Canada, and then playing collegiate in the U.S. He's a very, very humble individual, very talented soccer player. If you're interested in reading that, it's called Black Voices in Soccer. It's up on MLSNextPro.com. Feel free to message me too for the link if you can't find it. There's a great section on Tani there if you're interested in reading more about it. Now, John, we have a word from one of our sponsors, Pence Homes. So thank you to Pence Homes for sponsoring us. If you're a Minnesota United Twitter, you probably know who Nate Pence is. He's a diehard Loon supporter, but he is also a supporter of Minnesota soccer as a whole. See, Nate and his team are realtors specializing in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area, and he proudly supports various teams and organizations in the Twin Cities soccer community. Like Minneapolis City, our friends over at Equal Time Soccer, and now SodaSoccer.com. Not only is Nate ingrained in the local soccer ecosystem here, he's also helped countless people in and around the metro buy and sell their homes and has made them very happy as a result. So just head to pencehomes.com to get the process started, or email Nate directly at nate@pencehomes.com. That's NATE at PENTZ homes.com. Also, make sure to let him know Jeremy, Jacob, or John from Soda Soccer sent you. Thank you so much to Nate again.
Look at it this way. Look at it this way, folks. If you're going to be buying or selling a home, you're going to spend a lot of time with that realtor. You're going to spend a lot of time driving to different houses and doing all sorts of stuff. Wouldn't it be better if not only you could buy or sell your home, but also talk about Kervin Arriaga's role in the midfield?
Fair
Nate
enough.
Pence will do that. Are you going to get that from other realtors? I don't know if you are.
Big thank you to Nate Pence and Nate Pence Homes. Be sure to check them out. Now, I'm going to plug this once again. You've heard it from me many times, folks. Feel free to like, subscribe, and share the stream right now. If you are watching, share it on Twitter, give it a retweet. Head to @John Marthaler on Twitter, or J Marthaler on Twitter, excuse me, or at _ Jacob Schneider on Twitter. We've got these streams up on ours, or Soda Sucker on Twitter.
Let's go
But
see.
you gotta look it up. All right, let's look it up.
All right.
If you want to ask us a question, head to Facebook or YouTube. You can unfortunately you cannot ask us a question from Twitter.
Don't even bother trying, people. It won't work.
But if you are watching on Twitter, you want to ask a question, you can @ me on Twitter right now, and I will check, and I will be sure to read those aloud. I've got a few updates right here. Thank you to our host, or our founder, Jeremy Rushing, for sharing the stream just a little bit ago. I hope you're in here, Jeremy, and I hope you're proud of John and I, because we're doing our bestest just for you. All right,
I want to
John.
report that there is a Twitter account called John Marthaler. It's never tweeted. Never tweeted. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know that that's not a problem that I have. Shutting up. That's a problem I have.
I love it, John. We've got some match moments to go over now.
Yes.
The biggest moment from that first half, I mean, it is the Will Trapp yellow card. It can't be another trend going into 2023 simply because of how crucial he is. There's no other proper number 6 in that group, like you said. He has to talk to him. There's some discipline needed there. Quickly before we keep going on these match moments, I do have a question coming in from Connor S. Thank you, Connor, for the question. Let's see it. How, if at all, do you think the upcoming bye, which he finds ridiculous, will impact the Loons in this early portion of the season? It's a great question because a week 2 bye is very odd.
I'm sure at this point that if they had their choice, they would absolutely play next week, just
Yes.
because they want to keep going on the vibes from this week. But it's weird how this works out, because you've probably got about 29 weeks in the season, and everybody's gonna have a bye. You got an odd number of teams this year,
Yeah.
so it makes, I think it makes some sense to give Minnesota a bye early in the season, because the other option could be that they have their home opener next week. And I don't know if you've looked at the weather, but it's not going to be great. And it wasn't great last year. I think their home opener was March 5th last year, and it was terrible. There was a thunderstorm. It was 33 degrees, and the field was ruined for a month and a half afterwards. So, honestly, the best thing of all would be if Minnesota could just have a bye till about May 15th and just start their season then. However, I don't think the MLS office would go for that. So it could be worse. I guess what I'm saying is it could be worse. Their bye week could be the middle of June or something like that, when it would be perfect to have a game. So, but I don't think it's going to be good for them. They obviously would like to play next week after this week.
Connor, what I will say is when you have that bye week, you allow people like Asani Dotson to get to 90-minute strength with that 2-week notice still. He got his 30 minutes off the bench tonight. He's going to have a real opportunity to start that home game. Per Adrian Heath, when I spoke to him this past week, they'd love to, if he's ready, get him in that starting 11.
Where would they put him in the starting 11, though? That's the other question I have. You want Asani Dotson in there, but where is he going to go?
Hear me out, John.
All right, I'm ready. Asani Dotson at goalkeeper. I'm ready. I'm ready for any hot take.
No, what I would say is you stick with the 4-3-3, but instead you move Robin Lode over to the right wing, and unfortunately, Bongi Dino becomes a super sub. And I think someone with electric pace like him might be an influential sub around the 60th minute. We haven't really seen it, but I would like to see Bongi as a center forward at least once, simply because he's electric. He's so impactful in 1v1 situations, because I think you've talked about this, John, but he struggles to control his legs sometimes, and it throws off defenders. It's like he never grew into the way he runs, and as a result, defenders can't get a read on him.
It's impossible to know what he's about to do, because I'm not sure he knows what he's about to do.
But that's why he's our Bongi Dino.
Yep. That's why they call him Bongi Dino, name that I found out about 3 minutes ago.
We're trademarking that, by the way, to the 13 people watching.
You and Eli Hoff.
Yeah.
Every time any of the rest of us have to say it, we have to say trademark pending.
Shout out to Eli Hoff, contributor at sodasoccer.com. Tully Estes comments about the referee's performance tonight. What I will say is I did send in a question via the pool reporter in Dallas to ask about, the notable 56th minute tackle, Sebastian Ibeagha on Mender Garcia. I'm going to read the quote right now from referee Rami Touchon. Quote, the VAR gave, quote, check complete, unquote, due to Sebastian Ibeagha playing the ball first, comma, and all contact afterward was normal contact, unquote. As a result, VAR did look at it, despite the broadcast saying no VAR was issued. I asked Adrian Heath post-game, and Heath confirmed that VAR did look at it as well. He mentioned he'd like a second look as well, but at some point, you just have to say, oh, well, and move on and get on with the game. And luckily enough for Minnesota, they got the result, and that didn't impact the game an awful lot.
It was very like old school English football kind of refereeing. Like, well, you came from behind and you broke a guy's leg and you pulled out a knife and you stabbed him, but you got a little bit of the ball. So if you get a little bit of the ball, then everything's legal. That's not how we usually see the refereeing work. And we saw the replay a number of times. I think they only saw it once in slow motion, and then we saw a lot of normal speed. And it looks to me like Ibeagha gets the ball and the leg at the same time, which I think, based on what just about everybody else has said, I think that's probably counts as denial of a goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah,
But
it's frustrating
I,
from a consistency standpoint to see
yeah,
a situation like that not looked at further on screen for viewers at home, especially with the detail that Apple TV has gone into with this new layout, with the 780p screens, with everything. So a little frustrating, but Minnesota got the result, and that's what matters. So, John, jumping back to moments from the game. That early trap yellow was the storyline from the first half, but the only shot Dallas had on goal was that header off a corner kick at Dane St. Clair, miraculously saved. Shout out to Dane, Canadian international from the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Brilliant season last year, MLS All-Star. Big things from Dane are expected this year. And I think another storyline from that first half is Minnesota was a little lackluster in the first 15 minutes. It's not
everything
sustainable.
was a little lackluster in the first team. It was one of those self-erasing halves of soccer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think the point I just want to get across is that's not sustainable and it can't become a trend. Game one, we'll give you the excuse. March 11th, you're in front of 20,000 fans at Allianz Field with John and I watching from the press box, two very handsome press box members watching you. You gotta put on a performance.
Yeah, the handsome part. That's
Oh, God,
we're definitely not the most handsome press box vendors.
I love it. I love it.
Andy Grader's brooding stare. I mean, how are you going to defeat that? I guess is what I'm saying.
Shout out to Andy Grader, fantastic reporter covering Minnesota United for the Pioneer Press as well. Second half, Mendo Garcia, Franco Fragapane combined for the opening goal. Fraga's initial shot had some pace to it, man.
Out of nowhere.
Have you listened to the replay on like Twitter or clip or something? You legitimately hear the ball hit the gloves of Pius. Like he doesn't just save that ball.
Mm-hmm.
It probably hurt to save that ball. And then Mender pounces. That's what a center forward needs to do. Right spot, right time, good awareness. Just all around good stuff from Mender. Had a really good performance. He did get subbed out with what appeared to be an injury. Adrian said he just took a brief little knock, got kicked in the shin. He's fine. No worries. And then we talked about the Ibiaga challenge. We talked about the substitutes too. Sonny Dodson got his cameo, but he came in attacking mid, and Joseph Rosales came in left wing. Not sustainable, but it got the job done. Get everybody back healthy, and hopefully they have the ability to bring in a proper left wing at wing and a proper cam at the 10 position instead of Sonny Dodson. But if he scores a banger from there, he scores a banger. It's what Sonny Dodson does.
We sort of mentioned the lack of options they had up front, but what curse has befallen Minnesota United that all of their defenders have to be hurt at all times? They spent the whole offseason collecting defensive depth, and then they get to game one, and they've got the back four, and they've got DJ Taylor, who's recovering from an injury, as a backup, and that's it. That's all the defenders they had available tonight.
So for those of you that don't know, Mikael Marquez, the new Swedish defender, brought in during the offseason. He injured his ankle in training last Monday with what Agent Heath called a rolled ankle, said it wasn't very serious, but they were going to take the week to evaluate it and then give us a timeline this coming week. Doniel Henry is still recovering from an injury he sustained in preseason in the first trip to Orlando, which is very unfortunate because he's an MLS veteran, very seasoned player who can, bring a good locker room voice on top of his performances on the pitch. And then Devin Padelford was not with the group tonight, despite having a very good preseason. Moving forward, I would expect Padelford to be a name here and there on the team sheets on the bench just because of the growth he's had this offseason. When I saw Devin's pictures pop up in preseason on Twitter, I had to send it to the Soda Soccer Slack channel and ask who this was. One, Devin doubled in size in terms of muscles. Like last spring, he was a baby. All throughout the MLS Next Pro season, he was a baby. Something just changed, and he grew biceps, triceps, muscles on his face. He grew a beard. He cut his hair. Like I was just, it's
The
like,
muscles
wow,
on the
dude.
face. An underrated part of any player's game, especially in MLS, you need those face muscles to
I was
really.
I was like, who is this kid? And he went from 18 to 27 in like 4 months, but big stuff expected from Padelford this season. And then Kemar Lawrence got the nod. He was able to go. He did have an injury in preseason. He was also absent for quite some time, dealing with personal matters. Nice to see him out there. But they don't have Chase Gasper anymore. It was traded last spring. Padelford is that left back backup, and then you've got Valentine and DJ Taylor. So get your defense healthy, get everybody healthy for that game, that home opener on March 11th. But all in all, tonight, what a win for Minnesota United. You needed one goal. That's all you needed. You got it. And then you sat back, you played defense, you controlled the tempo of the midfield, and you shut down one of the best attacking front threes in Major League Soccer, a team that exports players to Europe unlike any other in Major League Soccer. Don't quote me on that because I think the Union might be getting close to what Dallas has done. But that partnership with Bayern Munich is pretty stellar for Dallas. But it's a really good win. You can't deny that. It's just Minnesota was impressive all throughout the match. It may have been bland in that first half, but they got the job done and they did it when nobody expected them to. John.
I do have a question for you. We sort of
Yeah.
talked about injuries. Is Clint Irwin dealing with something injury wise? He was not in the squad. They had two goalkeepers, and you wouldn't necessarily have expected Eric Dick and Fred Emmings to be those two that were in the lineup. I thought we would see Clint Irwin in there, so I was wondering if you knew whether Clint Irwin was injured or not.
I do not have an update on Irwin because I was expecting him to be there today. I was going to ask Heath post game, but it slipped my mind. I'll ask him on Tuesday when I see him.
Well, we've got 2 weeks to figure it out now.
And if I don't figure it out, I'll be sure to make it my lifelong journey to figure out why Clint Irwin
This is my number one, my only quest, my North Star.
Tully Estes has asked a series of questions here. He says Dallas did not shoot enough. I agree, but at the same time, they just struggled in the final third. They couldn't string passes together. They couldn't break down Minnesota's defense. No, we were not at the game, Tully, but our colleague Jeremy Rushing was. Jeremy has a post-game column up right now. It will be updated with quotes from the press conference too by the morning. And then
and he has a flight in like 4 hours to get back to Minnesota.
And then come Monday, I will have a three most important things up for Minnesota. Jeremy has commented here.
Jeremy says it was paternity leave for Clint Irwin. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations, Clint Irwin.
Congratulations.
Yet another guy who can't sleep anymore.
That's brilliant to hear. Wow, fantastic. Congratulations to Clint. Very happy for you. Wishing you the best of luck and a good night's sleep. Wow, that's awesome.
No, I mean, you can wish him all the luck you want, but he's not getting a good night's sleep. I'll tell you that for sure.
I love it, John. I love it. Thank you for sharing your experience. As we wrap up here, I want to reiterate to our viewers right now, if you have any last questions for us, send them in. If you are on Facebook or YouTube, unfortunately, if you are on Twitter, you will not be able to send comments in. But if you are watching, head to Facebook, head to YouTube, send John and I those questions, or at me on Twitter. Like I said, I will be checking to see if anybody's sent me a question. We're still
send him to Jeremy. Jeremy's right here.
Yeah. Send him to Jeremy too. Jeremy's in the comments too.
Find Jeremy on YouTube or on what are your other options? Facebook or YouTube for Jeremy.
Yeah, you got a 50% chance. We have another question from Mr. Jeldy. Thank you again. Is breaking the Dallas Open record good enough for revenge last season? I don't know if you can call it revenge simply because of how good that contest was. I was there in Dallas for that playoff game. It was a brilliant contest. I had a great time watching it. I think it was just unfortunate. Who expects a 20-year-old Argentine kid to Panenka and win a penalty shootout? He's got, balls of steel. It's incredible from Velasco, and he's a very talented player. He just shut down tonight. Minnesota played a great game last October, and I think they played a great game today, and I think it's really impressive to note with the players they had available, with the players they didn't have available, to get that 1-0 road win to begin your campaign. Plaudits to the coaching staff for the tactics and for the individuals on the pitch for getting the result. So, any other questions, feel free to send them in. But on tap, we've got a big home opener coming in 2 weeks, John. You host Nashville on March 11th, and that's reigning MLS MVP Hani Mukhtar.
I just want to stop you. They host New York on the 11th.
Oh, New York. My document says Nashville. I apologize.
The Nashville of the North is
Nashville
coming. Everybody says that,
yeah.
if you have a bachelorette party, do you want to go to Nashville or New York City?
Apologies there, folks. New York on the 11th. John, you want to give me a little preview? What's in store?
New York will be here. They play a brand of soccer that involves running down the field and hitting you over the head with clubs while nobody's looking. So Minnesota's going to have to be ready for that. You never know what's coming from New York. Every year they have 11 different players somehow. They never have the same player for 2 years in a row. You've never heard of any of them, and they just run and run and run. And like I said, hit you when the referee's not looking. That's the main thing they do as a team.
Thing with the Red Bulls too is, they've got a very talented fullback in John Tolkien, who will be tough to break down. Tolkien is one of my personal favorite players to watch in Major League Soccer at the moment.
It's a little strange because the way MLS is set up now, Minnesota plays 7 Eastern Conference teams this year, and that's it. They don't play everybody. But they did play New York last year, and it was notable as the game where Dane St. Clair took over and never gave the goalkeeping job back. He had a performance for the ages, let's say, last year. He made, I think, 8 saves. The Red Bulls had 4 XG. They didn't score at all. Minnesota got 1 chance and converted it. And St. Clair never came out again. That turned out to be the end for Tyler Miller in Minnesota and the start of Dane St. Clair's next run is in the net. So, and now they're back again this year. They got New York again this year. So we'll see a little more of the Red Bulls.
We'll talk about, the talent on that Red Bulls roster. Lewis Morgan is my dark horse MLS MVP in 2023, actually.
That's a pull. That's a pull right there. I like it.
I don't know if it's a pull, though, because he was brilliant last year in 2022 for them. I think he's one of the most underappreciated players in Major League Soccer. But Frankie Amaya, talented midfielder. Luquinhas, can't say enough about what Luquinhas can do on a pitch on his best day. Very talented player. Going to have to shut down strikers. Tom Barlow, very talented. And then, of course, you've got Sean Nealis at center back. Nealis is a massive player. He's going to be very tough to shut down.
Is he physically massive?
Yes.
Like, is he like 6'9"?
No. You know what? I want to say 6'4", though, if I'm remembering things right. Very tall.
Do you remember?
We've got Mr. Jelly.
It's 11:15 at night. I want to tell this story though. Last year, Jacob and I were at an MLS Next Pro game in Blaine, and when you're up high in the press box, you sort of look down and you're like, wow, that guy's big. That guy's really big too. And you get sort of this warped perspective with all these soccer players. And so we're looking at, I think they were playing St. Louis's next MLS Next Pro team.
Yep.
St. Louis had this guy and we're like, wow, that guy is huge. He must be like 6'3", 6'4". Minnesota had a backup goalkeeper from the academy. And we're like, wow, that guy's really tall. And then we went down on the field after the game. We've been talking about all these guys and it's like, you get down on the field when you have something to compare them to. And it was like, okay, all of these guys are very normal soccer player size. The goalkeeper that we thought was massive was maybe 6'1". The forward that we thought, wow, this guy is huge compared to all the other players on the field. I don't think he might have been 6 feet tall. It was, I love it. And it's not like we were at the National Sports Center. We weren't that far away from the field. It wasn't like the Dallas camera angle tonight is up in the, They got the space shuttle parked in Dallas, and that's where the camera angle comes from. But we were much closer than that. We're still, I guess what I'm saying is for idiots. So,
John and I are a good time. For those of you that don't know, we play off each other really well. That was a fun night. Hopefully, we'll get some more nights at the NSC this summer watching MNUFC too. I want
to go back. You said Lewis Morgan was your MLS MVP pick. I need to learn how to pronounce the name of the guy who scored for St. Louis tonight. But clearly, he's going to be the MLS MVP. Yeah, that guy. He was the guy. Did he score twice tonight for St. Louis?
I believe Klaus only scored the third. But Mr. Jelly, that was the question I was going to say, is actually asked about St. Louis upsetting Austin tonight. What a freaking result for St. Louis. Congratulations to them for pulling off the real coupon buster of the night. The real coupon
That
buster
is a
of the
coupon
night.
buster for sure. Austin, I mean, to be honest, Austin was a lot of people's pick as potentially the Western Conference champions this year.
But on top of that,
Everybody's you start with LAFC, but Austin was the other team that was getting picked.
so Austin were down a starting center back today, and then they lost starting center back Julio Cascante 11 minutes into the match. That center back pairing did not work out well the rest of the game. Kip Keller came on, and well, Kip is he's a young kid. He's 22. He's making his MLS debut today, so I I struggle to say that it was a bad result for Austin when you're down your starting center backs, but at the same time the St. Louis roster is just compiled. They're not necessarily they don't have the great chemistry, everything.
It really feels like a video game that didn't get the actual rights to the actual players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just a bunch of random names, and they went out and beat Austin tonight.
Sebastian Driussi did get on the board, MLS Golden Boot favorite, but shout out to Tim Parker, first ever goal for St. Louis City. Joao Klaus scored the winner in the 86th minute, and it's a brilliant winner if you haven't gotten a chance to see it. Brilliant turn, cut in on that, like he cuts behind the defender with his right foot, tosses the ball behind his left, curls the ball in with his left foot past the keeper. Lovely stuff. Great goals all around MLS today.
He was coming in from the right side, and for some reason decided to flip it inside the far post with the outside of his right.
Was it outside of his right boot? Goodness.
Yeah, like he didn't. It's like he doesn't have a left foot. You know what I mean? Like the exact opposite of Franco Fragapane. Like, dude, you got two of them. You can use both of them to kick the ball. Use them both.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten a chance to, great MLS matches all across the board tonight. We still have Vancouver and Real Salt Lake ongoing.
If you keep seeing me glance up here, it's because I keep glancing up and watching RSL yet again get that X dog in him and come back. And
Justin Glad and Damir Krylak on the board in the second half to give RSL a 2-1 lead in the 87th minute. We're at right now. Big result for RSL if they pull it off. So good luck to them. 4 minutes left in that contest. We're going to wrap up here, folks. We're at the 52-minute mark. Thank you for sticking around. But up next for Minnesota United, it is the New York Red Bulls, not Nashville SC.
As Jacob calls them, Nashville SC.
Of the North.
Of the North. North Nashville.
On March 11th, that is the Allianz Field home opener. I'll be there. John will be there. We hope to see you there. Be sure to check sodasoccer.com over the next 2 weeks for all of the content in the world. Subscribe to our Patreon to support us on this journey in 2023. I'll be doing another giveaway on Twitter for our Patreon subscribers leading up to the home game. There'll be some cool swag. So be sure to check out my Twitter and I hope to have some cool stuff for you guys. And after that match on the 11th, they head to Colorado on the 18th before returning to Allianz once again on March 25th. Next 3 games, big chance for Minnesota United to make a statement in the Western Conference. Big chance for players like Mender Garcia to say, this is my position. And I'll leave it on this, folks. Expect Minnesota United transfer news this week. Adrian Heath hinted at it in his press conference. And when it happens, we will have it right away for you. Be sure to check out sodasoccer.com.
Jacob, do you remember off the top of your head when the transfer deadline is? When this transfer window ends? Because I don't. I just want to say right now,
time.
I don't. They do have a little bit of time, but Heath has been talking a lot of the preseason about how he really wants to bring guys in, and obviously it hasn't happened yet. But he sounds really hopeful now.
Yeah, sounds very hopeful. Thank you, Mr. Geldy, for the questions today. Just commented, good night, gents. Koyal, come on, you Loons. I appreciate it. Very good result for Minnesota United. Congratulations to Clint Irwin and his family this evening. And then shout out to Mender Garcia for the first goal of the 2023 season for Minnesota United. John, anything else you want to add before we log off?
I got a guessing game for you. It's a trivia question.
Yeah.
The last time Minnesota United won its season opener was the 2020 season. 2 Loons scored in that game. It was a 3-1 win over Portland. Can you name either Loon who scored in that 2020 win?
2020. Kevin Molino?
Kevin Molino. 2 goals for Kevin Molino in that one.
Yeah.
And
did he score both? No.
He got 2, and someone got a third. Who got the third?
It wasn't Boxy.
It wasn't Boxy.
Oh, John, this is a good one for me. Hey, if you're in the comment section and I'll give you 15 seconds to answer before me. I'm watching the camera right now. 15 seconds if you get it in there. Goodness. Not Ibsen was gone. It's a midfielder.
Yeah, by 2020, Ibsen.
Yeah, Ibsen was
He was gone.
I miss him though. I miss Ibsen.
I'll give you a hint. It's a familiar Loon to current Loons fans.
It's not Robin Lod, is it?
It's not Robin Lod.
Oh, goodness me. A familiar Loon to current Loons. John, it's 2020. What are we talking about? Who's been here? Brent Coleman?
No, it wasn't Brent Coleman. That would have been awesome though.
Last chance. I'm gonna fire away, and I'm going to say I got nothing. Go.
It was Luis Maria.
Oh my gosh!
First hit with Minnesota United. He scored
You
that
are
week.
right.
I think he scored the following week, and then he got hurt, and we never thought we'd see him again. And then he came back last year.
I knew there was a Kevin Molino brace. I thought he scored both goals.
Kevin Molino with 2. That was a good ball.
Thank you, John. I try. All right, folks, we're at the 56-minute mark. Thanks for sticking around. We're going to head out, get some sleep. Congratulations to Minnesota United on the result. I'm going to take some NyQuil. Hey, if you're a cultured soccer fan, I'll see you at 7:30 in the morning for the North London Derby. Come on, you Blues. And then, Chelsea, get the result for me. I need you. But before we go, Rodrigo.
I just want to point out that Chelsea is not in North London.
Get out of here! It's the North London Derby. Hey, if our good friend of the good friend of the pod, good friend of Soda Soccer, Rodrigo is in the chat, I promised you there would be a guest appearance tonight from a former Loon. We're gonna bring him on right now, if that's all right with you. Hold up for just a second.
Oh, we almost forgot him. It's good to see him.
Hey everybody, Tomas Chacon here.
That's right.
Congratulations to Minnesota United on the result this evening.
Free Chacon.
Yeah. Thomas Chacon makes an appearance on every podcast.
What is Thomas Chacon up to these days? Have we followed along with him since he left Minnesota?
I think I see a column coming from you this week, John.
Yes.
But anyways, Thomas Chacon on a stick is what was handed out to Minnesota United fans and media members when he was announced at halftime when they signed him. It'll forever be a bit on the podcast, forever be a bit whenever I make an appearance. Thank you, Tomas, for making an appearance, and thank you to John for joining me tonight. Have a good night, Loons fans. We're going to check out. Thanks again.